Flight Dreams, a Mark Manning mystery, Book 1. Author, Michael Kraft. Publisher, Open Road Integrated Media, New York. Narrator, Eric Ost. When Neil shakes his shoulder. When he opens his eyes, he is confused by the sunlight that fills the room, certain that it cannot yet be morning, certain that he has just lain down. Yet he is totally rested, suddenly alert, aware of the powers that have somehow been rejuvenated, recharged by the silent workings of his brain and body through the night. He hears Neil tell him, "Time to get up." Manning turns his head on the pillow to see Neil sitting on the bed next to him, wearing a pair of faded gray cotton running shorts. Manning gazes openly at the other man's chest, impressed by its muscle tone, by the clearly delineated pectorals. He has felt an intense attraction to Neil since their first meeting, but he now feels his attraction redoubled with the confirmation that Neil's body is a match for his intellect, and a match for Manning's own body, his own mind. With a still groggy smile, Manning says, "You're beautiful." As a substitute for the more conventional good morning, Neil runs his fingers once lightly through Manning's hair. "It's 8 o'clock. I brought you some coffee," he tells him. "The perfect toast." "I do try. Now, not to rush you, but if you'd like to wake up in the shower first, please do. Then we can run." Manning asks, "Will I need a shirt?" "There's still a morning chill, but you'll work up a sweat fast enough." Neil pats Manning's head again, gets up, and leaves the room, affording his guests some privacy for his morning routine. A few minutes later, Manning enters the living room. He wears his old yellow shorts and a new pair of white leather running shoes. He bought them weeks ago, but has been saving them for what he wasn't sure. "You're not so bad yourself," says Neil, returning Manning's earlier compliment as his eyes examine every line, every muscle of the man who stands before him, searching in vain for some evidence that Manning is nearly 10 years older. "Come on," says Manning with a laugh, jerking his head toward their front door. "Show me your mountain." Outside in the still air, nothing moves. The rest of the world is indoors, shooting videos of kids mauling presents. The sun hangs low in the winter latitudes of the desert sky, but its warm rays penetrate Manning's chest as he emerges from the shadows of the arbor in front of the house. Without a word, Neil trots off across the terrace toward the road, pebbles grating rhythmically beneath the treaded soles of his shoes. Manning catches up with him and trots at his side. They run easily at a comfortable gait, like animals stretching their muscles for no other reason than to limber their bodies to test their own endurance. They pass one of the houses that abuts Neil's property, and Manning notes the skill with which Neil has secluded his own house from it. Other houses flash by, confirming Manning's hunch that these mountainside addresses are among the city's most desirable. As they move up the steep road, Manning, who's not accustomed to running on hills, finds that even their mild pace quickly tires him. In contrast, Neil pumps away with steady strides and deliberate breathing. Manning glances sideways to indulge in the sight of his friend's body in motion. In spite of the recent rains, the mountain's rocky red earth can support little more than scrub and cactus, except in the rich topsoil trucked up to form carefully nurtured lawns and gardens around many of the houses. The desert environment is hostile toward trees, offering virtually no shade. The black-topped ribbon of the road, already softening in Arizona's morning sun, winds its way up the mountain in search of greater heights and broader vistas. The heat, taken for granted by those who live here, is a hedonistic luxury to Manning, who suffered the rigors of a winter storm only yesterday. He gulps lungfuls of warm, dry air, while sweat begins to rise from every pore, collecting into salty drops that trickle down his bare skin to lodge in the waistband of his shorts. Manning has not yet gained his second wind and has fallen several strides behind Neil, who slows his running to pace Manning with measured steps. The pounding of Manning's feet on the asphalt becomes synchronous with Neil's as Manning follows. He watches the long tendons down Neil's thighs, that stretch and contract with each stride. The damp V that creeps further into Neil's shorts and sticks in the crack between his buttocks. Manning has lost awareness of the world around him. His entire consciousness is fixed on the body of the man who runs before him, on his own hard purple-brown nipples that sting hot cold in the air, passing over them on the lump that comes to life between his legs. He runs easily now, enjoying the euphoric lightheadedness induced by overbreathing. Veering to the edge of the road, Neil directs his feet in a curving path that will reverse the direction of their run. They have reached the road's highest point. To follow it farther would take them down the mountain's other side, a great distance from the house. So Neil is turning back. Manning's leans into the same semicircular turn as they pass each other in opposite directions. Each becomes aware of the other's obvious arousal, which intensifies the drives that are building within both of them. The downward run accelerates into a race for the house. Only moments ago, Manning struggled to climb the road's steep grade. Now both men struggle to keep from pitching forward as gravity pulls them through the curves of an all-out sprint, their feet barely tapping the ground, while their legs scissor repeating arches like dance leaps. They run in precise unison at each other's side, so close that their arms brush. About 100 yards from the house, as if responding to some secret signal, they stop running and begin walking the rest of the way. The warm down that will ease their pulses to a slower, normal rate. Neither speaks as they turn off the road together, cross the courtyard, and enter the front door. Nothing is said as they walk through the main room toward the glass doors and back, still breathing heavily from the rigors of their downhill dash. Without a word, they emerge from the house toward the pool. Neil descends the terrace steps with a purposeful stride, stepping onto the canvas-covered mats that edge the water. He collapses on his back next to the bunch of red flowers that Manning dropped there last night. He stares at Manning, his vision blurred by the sun's glare on the sweat that covers him with an unknowable number of tiny lens-like beads. Then the glare disappears as Manning's shadow crosses over his body. Manning stands at Neil's feet, their shoes touching at the ankles. He reaches down to push the shorts from his hips. When he steps out of them, his blood-gorged penis springs forward, a drop of lubricant stretching from its tip, dazzling in the sun from over his shoulder. But Neil sees only the green clarity of Manning's eyes as the naked man drops to his knees, straddling Neil's hips. Manning lowers his chest onto Neil's, and their open mouths meet. Their teeth scrape as their tongues wag within each other, as they exchange a single spent breath and whimper with the dizzying lack of oxygen. Manning's pelvis grinds in slow circles upon Neil's, his bare penis stabbing at the lump still trapped in Neil's shorts. Manning finally releases his lips from Neil's, sits back, and tears off the shorts with a compulsive swipe. He gazes in wonder at the other man's penis, erect, quivering with each pulse of blood. Cock, he tells himself. Neil's cock. Neil moans, a guttural, ecstatic laugh, as he feels Manning's lips close upon him. He spreads his legs further apart. His hips begin to thrash gently as if wagged by the suction of Manning's mouth. Without disconnecting from Neil, Manning positions himself to lower his own genitals over Neil's face. Neil reaches with his tongue to tickle Manning's testicles and feels the body on top of him shudder at the contact. Neil draws one of the lumps into his mouth and swirls his tongue around it. Manning groans awesomely as Neil begins to stroke Manning's penis in rhythm with the pumping of his hips. Neil knows he will soon come. His back arches involuntarily as he tries, forcing his way deeper past Manning's lips. Manning's grunts are steadily louder. Neil suddenly tenses as the surge of ejaculation grips his body, rips through his penis and into Manning's throat. Manning's moans erupt into a heaving shout as his own semen bursts through Neil's hand and spews like a paste between their chests. When Manning can move, he crawls around to collapse in Neil's arms, their mouths just touching, panting. The desert sun beats down upon their bodies, upon the bunch of delicate red flowers now scattered at their side and in the pool. Recovery from their sexual frenzy is slow and serene. The stillness of the morning is pierced only by the peeping of a tiny hyperactive bird somewhere in the nearby foliage. Neil swallows. Deadpan, he tells Manning, "You're supposed to say, I never dreamed it could be like this." "I did dream about it," Manning assures him. "But you're right. This was far better." They lie there motionless except for their random exchange of tender little gestures. The touch of a nose, the probing of a fingertip. Then Neil raises 1 foot high before them, displaying his running shoe, wagging it at the ankle, eyeing it curiously as if not certain what it is. He says at last. "That's pretty kinky, Mark. I've never done it with shoes on. Not that it didn't add a certain erotic twist, but it's highly unorthodox." "And there was no time to take them off," Neil concurs. "Yeah, I noticed a sense of urgency to the whole business." They both laugh. Neil brings his knee to his chin and reaches forward to unlace and remove the shoe. Then the other. He stands up, his feet at Manning's shoulders. Manning gazes up at him, intrigued by the contour of Neil's body. From this perspective, Neil steps over him and lowers himself smoothly into the pool. The water rising to his nipples, Manning rolls onto his side, planting one elbow in the mat to support his head in the palm of his hand. He watches while Neil splashes fistfuls of water over his chest to wash away the sun-baked crust of Manning's orgasm. Manning sits up, removes his own shoes, and slips into the pool. "Christ," he says, "this water's cold." "It's December," Neil reminds him. "You could be home shoveling snow." Aware of his complaint's futility, Manning wades forward to embrace Neil. They cling together, mouth to mouth. Water spurts from between their chests. Their limp penises swim together in the tangle of their legs. Morning drifts into afternoon. They haven't eaten all day, satisfying their hunger with the exploration of each other's body. On the terrace, in the pool, indoors on the floor, and in bed, Manning proves himself an eager pupil in a quick study in Neil's Berlitz-style version of Safe Sex 101. Their lessons are interspersed with short naps, allowing their bodies to prepare for the next call to action. But when the afternoon sky begins to glow with the first orange streaks of evening, they both at last are feeling starved and exhausted. Clearly, it's time to get dressed. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.